What is going on, everybody? Welcome in to Studs and Duds, the most comprehensive NFL player review series on the internet. My name is Marcus Whitman, and today we're going to be going game by game, recapping the risers and fallers from NFL Week 10. If you are new here, you should know that as we go, you will be seeing ratings adjustments to these players, and these ratings adjustments actually stem from my own custom Madden roster update, something I've been doing since 2016. But have no fear, I've watched all of the games up to this point, reviewed the film from last week, and you can be rest assured to know that these ratings changes do accurately show how I perceive these players in real life. Beyond that, if you enjoy, please do hit that like button down below. Really helps me out, helps support and grow the channel. Also, this is my most ambitious endeavor every week, putting this video out. So if you enjoy, if you learn something, if you want to support the series, you can do it through these links right here. You can support directly via Venmo or PayPal, or sign up on patreon.com/thatfranchiseguy, where you will also get exclusive content such as film breakdowns and access to my weekly NFL picks. So without further ado, let's get into the star of the week, a man with a big star on his helmet, CeeDee Lamb. He is seriously playing like a top 5 receiver in the NFL. Year 2 out of Oklahoma has been very kind to CeeDee Lamb, and what just stands out to me about CeeDee Lamb is that he does everything at such a high level. He separates, he's got speed to be a deep threat, his run after catch ability is at the top of the league, so good at making guys miss and running through arm tackles, his ball skills at the top of the league as far as elevating and attacking the football in the air, very Stephon Diggs-esque, which now that I say that I think was my pro comp for CeeDee Lamb coming out, but he has overshadowed Amari Cooper, who just might be a top 10 receiver in his own right, and has, let's just say Dak has eyes for CeeDee Lamb, and for good reason. So CeeDee Lamb, a quick ascender here throughout the season, and in my opinion, establishing himself at least as a top 10 receiver in the NFL. And then our dud of the week actually going to come from that same Cowboys-Falcons game, and on top of that, another poor performance against the New England Patriots on Thursday Night Football that is going to be included in this video, and that's going to be Deion Jones. And Jones can still cover, which is what he's known for. He's still going to get that 80 grade from me. He's not a miserable player, he's not a useless player, but he, at a point in time several years ago, was viewed as this top 3, top 4 cover linebacker, a guy with lockdown coverage over the middle of the field, and a consistent impact in that part of the game. And he just hasn't been that now for the better part of a full season, going back to last year. And then you add on top of the fact that he has been a miserable run defender in every sense of the word, missing tackles, not dissecting plays, avoiding blocks, and when he does get blocked, getting absolutely blown up. He has been a liability for the Atlanta Falcons this year, these last couple weeks against Dallas and New England. He's been a point of emphasis for opposing run games and screen games, and it's just time for Deion Jones to come down. He had that amazing season back in the Falcons Super Bowl run, and frankly has been slowly regressing since, to the point that right now he's not really a very good player at all. So he might still have better days ahead, but right now, stock is way down for Deion Jones. And now we have to rewind all the way back to Thursday Night Football from Week 10. This was that Ravens-Dolphins slugfest, and Lamar Jackson is going to come down from this game. I think you're concerned by a lot of the missed throws and a lot of the missed reads as far as his inability to process the blitz. It's just a little pump the brakes moment on Lamar Jackson, who's overall having an excellent season, but really no way to sugarcoat this. I mean, you show that big of a weakness and that big of an inability to handle basically the same look over and over and over again, and inability to adjust, there's going to be some concerns about how he's going to handle that moving forward. So that'll be something to monitor moving forward, is how he handles those zero blitzes that he's certainly going to be seeing moving forward, based on how much success the Dolphins had against Lamar with those looks. And then Sammy Watkins also going to come down. I mean, it wasn't all Lamar Jackson. Sammy Watkins definitely let Lamar down. He had man, I got to think way back. This feels like 2 weeks ago at this point, but he had a fumble, right? Or a drop that led to an interception. It was a big, costly mistake. And then there was the other play where he just didn't look for the ball deep, and it was like the best throw Lamar made all night, and Sammy Watkins just unaware that the ball was coming his way. It was just a bad outing for a guy that was once viewed as a number one wide receiver. He's a 3 or a 4 now, and he's on that part of his career where he's probably going to be a journeyman for a couple of years because he is not an impactful receiver, period. And then on the defense, these edge players are going to come up. Justin Houston looks rejuvenated a little bit in this Ravens scheme. And then Odafe Owe, the young pass rusher out of Penn State, he's been, just kind of stably average as a pass rusher, but what he's been doing as a just physical presence up front in run defense feels like he makes 1 or 2 impactful plays every week just based off his athleticism. So to build off that week by week, he's got a very bright future. And then Patrick Queen as well, a young player in total development this last month, really kind of starting to reach his potential, I would just say, because he's had a lot of issues, especially when it comes to run defense early on in his career. But recently, he's been getting to the football a lot more, and when he gets there, he's not missing tackles. He had a handful of missed tackles in the first couple months, more than a handful. But over the last 4 weeks, just been a sure tackler, which he has not been throughout his career. So that's the biggest note on Patrick Queen, but just playing faster, more confident, and it shows. Okay, then on the Miami Dolphins side, Austin Reeder's going to come down. So he was, for a long time, a quality starting center for the Chiefs. The Saints pick him up. He never gets any starting playing time, and the Dolphins grab him off the practice squad. He's been starting here for Miami for the last few weeks. And just as it tends to happen here in Miami, when other linemen arrive, they play worse, and that's been the case with Austin Reeder. Not a huge surprise, but he just needed to come down a little bit, living a little bit too much off of his glory days in Kansas City with that 72 grade. And then on the defense, Xavier Howard going to get his +1 back that he lost last week. We lowered him, and then that was actually after the Thursday night game. This is why it feels so long ago. But revisiting that game, Xavier Howard didn't just have the excellent scoop and score fumble recovery where he just showed such natural athleticism to make that play. He was great in coverage in this game. So Xavier Howard's going to get that overall point that we took away last week back. And then Javon Holland +2, second week in a row, he's going up. Such a great game against the Baltimore Ravens on Thursday Night Football. It might be hyperbolic to say this, but I do think Javon Holland is kind of entering the Defensive Rookie of the Year conversation. I know it's harder for defensive backs to pull that off, but God, he's just so versatile, and he's been such an impact for this Dolphins defense on all 3 levels. He can cover short to intermediate, he can be a man cover safety, and then he'll come into the box and look like Jamal Adams at times, like getting off blocks and bringing down ball carriers around the line of scrimmage. He can blitz. Gosh, and to have Brian Flores deploying a player like this who's in his rookie season, it's really exciting. So he was my number 1 safety in this draft class. I was kind of on an island with that take, and gosh, that has been a take that I'm very proud of this year because he's just been so incredible as a rookie for the Dolphins. Justin Coleman, veteran slot corner, is going to go up. He's been really sound in coverage about the last couple weeks. And then Christian Wilkins, former 13 overall pick, I think it was. It's been one of the Dolphins' lone good first-round draft picks over the last couple years. And he seems to have reached his physical and mental prime, especially as a run defender. He's doing some decent stuff as a pass rusher as well, but he's just such a sound, stable part of that front 7. So Christian Wilkins going up yet again as he's been climbing throughout the season. Okay, Falcons at Cowboys. We already talked about this game a little bit with our stars and dud of the week. But Matt Ryan going to come down 2 here. And by the way, this includes for the Falcons Thursday Night Football against the Patriots, where this Falcons offense was just abysmal. And Matt Ryan, now 3 of the last 4 weeks, has really played like a steaming pile of crap. And it was no different in the Patriots game. It was certainly no different in this Cowboys game. Just making bad mistakes under pressure. Yes, he's under pressure, but Matt Ryan should know better than some of the interceptions he's throwing. He's been missing some throws, and he doesn't have the ability to transcend a bad offensive line and a receiving core that's non-elite, which is something he's not used to. So Matt Ryan's going to come down too, and yeah, he's kind of entering the back end of his career. I do believe that, 36 years old. He's certainly in that cluster with guys like Kirk Cousins, who are just kind of week to week and very dependent on the other guys around him, elevating him and playing better than they've been playing recently. But again, it's not just him. Kyle Pitts has really not been stepping up, especially when you look at that Patriots game. A large part of it is the Falcons just not using him in the right ways and not using him enough. And he's certainly shown those flashes of being that elite player that we still project him to be throughout his career. But he is only 20 years old, and there are several times throughout the season where he's not coming down with contested catches, and Matt Ryan does trust him to make a play, and he lets Matt Ryan down. So Pitt's just a little bit of a heat check here, -1. He'll get those back in time, but right now it's got to come down. And then we got Caleb McGarry. We raised him last week, and then really back-to-back poor performances, getting abused by Micah Parsons for a bad sack in this one, or at least a pressure. And he's taken a step back after playing pretty well. And this has been Caleb McGarry's career. He's basically hovered right around this bottom end starting caliber tackle tier since he came into the league, right around that 69-70 mark. So he'll probably go back to 70 in a few weeks, and then we'll take it down. He's just a very inconsistent starter. And then we got the defense here. We did Deion Jones, and then a couple low-level rotational kind of front four pieces here. Anthony Rush, who they picked up, decent run defensive performance against the Patriots. Adetokunbo Ogundeji, he's getting so much playing time and not getting lost out there. I still don't see much in him, but he plays tough and physical and holds his gap. That's about it. But going to get some respect for the playing time he's receiving. And then A.J. Terrell, +1, gets that pick against the Patriots. The fourth week in a row, A.J. Terrell has been, frankly, the only pleasant surprise for the Falcons this season. Maybe there's some other bright spots sprinkled in there, but having A.J. Terrell emerge as a guy that is frankly playing like one of the best corners in the NFL despite the lack of surrounding talent, that's not easy to do on defense. So former first-round pick, I butchered that, getting him confused with Trayvon Mullen out of Clemson, who was a second-round pick for the Raiders. A.J. Terrell was a first-round pick. I misspoke last week. Top 16, I think it was a 16th overall pick. So he's certainly living up to that pedigree and on the rise as a premium young corner in the NFL. And then for the Cowboys, one of the more dominating performances you'll see on the season, we had CeeDee Lamb. Dak Prescott's going to go up just so sound and doesn't make mistakes. He's been accurate. He's been extending plays a little bit better. He just continues to rise. I do, by the way, have a Dak Prescott film room up on my Patreon that I did from the Patriots Week 5 game, I think it was. Really fun to see some of the stuff Dak is doing in that game. Was reflected again in this week against the Falcons. You got Tyler Biadasz still just steadily bunkering down as a pass protector for the Dallas Cowboys. Was, once viewed like a weak link, but I think his development has been brought up from some of the talent he's had around him, and credit to himself as well for sticking to it, and he's supplanted himself as a decent center and still climbing, still young. Lyle Collins is back, and I don't see Terrence Steele taking that job back. It was always fascinating that they went with Terrence Steele over Lyle Collins, but Collins kind of playing pissed off, just abusing people in the run game, and quickly reminding Dallas who the best right tackle is on this team. And then defensively, some rotational kind of run defending pieces here. Dorrance Armstrong, who's just been so opposite of what he was coming out of Kansas. It's interesting, and I almost said funny, but just fun. Like, this dude was a tiny 235-pound finesse rusher coming out of Kansas who ran like a 4.8. It's like, what is this guy going to do in the NFL? Well, it turns out he's going to put on about 25, 30 pounds and become a run-defending edge piece and start playing a physical brand of football. So credit to him for kind of finding his niche in the NFL, and he's been a key role player for that Cowboys front. And Chauncey Golston as well. That is much more of what he projected coming out of Iowa, but he has fit the bill as a rotational run defender on the edge. You need a couple of these guys, and they got, 3, 4, 5 deep on the edge. Part of that is Micah Parsons' ability to come in and play the edge when need be. I've just been so impressed with his versatility as a rookie. A large part of this is Dan Quinn is just putting him in a position where he can see ball, hit ball, get after the quarterback at times. But yeah, it speaks for itself, man. You turn on any Cowboys game and Parsons shows up, makes a big play here. Just you notice him flying around, the speed, the technique, and his tackling. It's pretty incredible. So he's going up again, still the defensive player of the year, in my opinion. And then in the secondary, Jordan Lewis, Anthony Brown, both guys going up. We're locked down in this game. This is going to be unpopular, but these guys are actually better cover players than Trayvon Diggs. They just don't necessarily have the ball skills as Trayvon Diggs. They're not going to get the credit with Diggs getting all those interceptions. He actually got another one in this week that Matt Ryan threw right to him after he had been beat on a route by Kyle Pitts. But actually Jordan Lewis and Anthony Brown were the stars of this game. And then Jaron Kearse as well, just seriously one of the best tacklers in the NFL. He's got those lengthy arms. He's 6'4", and he plays a position where he doesn't have to deal with a lot of contact. He just kind of plays that buzz safety and can see ball, hit ball, and be a secure tackler. He's found a good role in this defense, in a bit of that Cam Chancellor role for these Cowboys. But yeah, it's been an impressive season for Jaron Kearse. Okay, Bills at Jets. For the Buffalo Bills, Spencer Brown. Bills fans were asking for him to get a boost, and absolutely, he's been a beast, especially as a run blocker. Now, he's shown that he's a rookie, right tackle, and I think they're playing him there. They moved Darrell Williams into guard. I think they really want Spencer Brown to become a star tackle, and I think they're on to something there. He just has a lot of work to do. He's coming out of Northern Iowa. It's going to be a big adjustment for the guy. But the dude's a freak athlete, and that is translated as a run blocker immediately. So we're keeping an eye on Spencer Brown. This guy has incredible potential, just physically speaking. Just with his size and movement ability, it's scary stuff if he can continue to hone in his technique and experience. Then on the defense, Harrison Phillips is healthy and continuing to ascend as a high-end run-defending interior piece for the Buffalo Bills. That is definitely something they need, is a little more meat and toughness inside that D-line. Good to see that. And then these two safeties, Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, they've just been, if you want to just look at a 3-year window, they have certainly been the best safety duo in that time. Micah Hyde just so sound on the back end. Poyer so versatile. Both these guys incredibly versatile. And great tacklers as well. They're just such a great scheme fit for what the Bills do as well. They love those kind of split safety defenses. They like to rotate these guys and try to confuse quarterbacks when they can. They'll often ask these guys to be man cover safeties or at least convert a quarters coverage into man coverage. Both these guys with cornerback experience, so versatile, so excellent, and perfectly deployed in this scheme. So both these guys are going to get some respect this week. Micah Hyde especially, who has been locked down on the back end. And then the poor New York Jets, no movement this week. There just wasn't any surprise performances. They got blown out. The players that I think are solid on this team played okay, and the players that we know sucked in this game. So no movement. I will say Elijah Vera Tucker has been a concern in pass protection the last couple of weeks. I didn't want to lower him because he was coming off a couple good weeks before that. He's still young. I think he can self-correct some of this stuff. But we definitely have our eyes on Elijah Vera Tucker as a pass protector who has struggled over the last few weeks. All right, Cleveland at the New England Patriots. Baker Mayfield gonna come down. There shouldn't be much pushback on this. Just bad interception, about as bad as you'll see. There was just nothing there. He throws a pick. Was it a pick six? I think it was taken all the way. But either way, easily could have been a pick six. Trying to force the ball to David Njoku. He hasn't been extending plays. He's had some accuracy issues. Now he's playing injured, and I do understand that. But that doesn't explain the bad interceptions. He tried to throw another one in the red zone, got away with it. And yeah, he just hasn't been a star quarterback. He's been a starting caliber guy. He's had some good games and certainly some bad games, so he's going to come down. Then Dearness Johnson steps in at running back. He's not Nick Chubb. He's not Kareem Hunt, but he's very solid. He's got a little bit of juice in there and had a good game here against a tough New England front seven. And then Jordan Elliott on the defensive side of the ball, the kind of emerging run defending defensive tackle for them, just playing physical up front, and in year two has been a nice piece for them. Hey everyone, I just want to take a second to interrupt the video and remind you that if you enjoy the Madden aspect of everything that I do, to check out my second YouTube channel that is TFG Plays. That link is in the description below. Check it out, where I am doing my realistic Bengals rebuild. Also, you can follow week-by-week condensed games of my online 32-man league as we are looking to restore the Niners to glory with Trey Lance. So if you enjoy the Madden side of things, all of my Madden content has moved to TFG Plays, and I encourage you to go follow over there, and I'll see you there. Back to the video. Then for the Patriots, fasten your seatbelt. We got week 11 included, and this has been two dominating performances. The Patriots kind of stealing the the spotlight over the last 10 days or so, and rightfully so. So for the offense, Mac Jones going up to, mostly for his performance in this game against the Cleveland Browns. So +2, 75 to a 77, just really a perfectly quarterbacked game. Now, he didn't have to do a lot, but he made some beautiful big-time throws. You think about the Kendrick Bourne pass in the red zone, touchdown into double coverage, but he threw it on the back shoulder where only Kendrick Bourne could get it. That is really the play why Kendrick Bourne is going up here, but he's been incredibly sound after Mac Jones on this list. And then N'Keal Harry, now for the second week in a row, he's going to go up. They're just using him very subtly, but he's catching the ball when they throw it his way. And most notably here, he's been a lights-out run blocker, and showing that physical mentality is something that's been kind of missing for N'Keal Harry. I think Belichick loves that he is buying into this team, and he is on the rise. Former first-round pick. We know he doesn't have a huge ceiling, but he can still be a role player as a run blocker and a contested catch option for this team. So to have him emerge has been a pleasant surprise for the Patriots. Hunter Henry, all the dude does is catch a touchdown every week. Did he have one against the Falcons? I don't think he got one against the Falcons, but he has still been incredibly stable. Ran a beautiful route in the red zone here against the Cleveland Browns, toe-dragging touchdown in the end zone. So Hunter Henry kind of back to his old self a little bit. Ramondre Stevenson, +3 both weeks here, Cleveland and against the Atlanta Falcons. If this guy is on the football field, he's a really good running back. He had some issues at Oklahoma. Bill Belichick brings him in, and he's now a part of a rotation here with Harris, and both these guys are just strong and tough running backs with a lot of size. So he's been a nice selection in the fourth round there. And then on the defense, basically the entire freaking defense going up here. Matt Judon, such a versatile, perfect fit for this defense. He's brought a pass rush element off the edge that they simply have not had since Chandler Jones left. You pair him with Christian Barmore. This is a different looking Patriots defense. They're still good on the back end, but it's not like they have Gilmore and Jones back there and prime Devin McCourty locking dudes down. It's been a little bit different. It's been the pass rush helping the secondary out much more this year, and that is not exclusively thanks to Matthew Judon and Christian Barmore, but in large part thanks to them. You sprinkle Dietrich Wise in there, who is an excellent pocket pusher, pressure getter up front. He's been playing better run defense. So these three are kind of unsung heroes for a Patriots team that is fastly on the rise. Then you have Kyle Duggar, +2, 75 to a 77. And this was really from both of these games. You could technically put the heat on him if you want. I mean, he was great against the Browns and even better against the Falcons. Versatile, do-it-all safety. I mean, he's definitely got that kind of box safety tag on him because he's 220 pounds. But that's not all he does. He will play some deep stuff. He can fly around. He's got legit, 4.45 5 speed or so. And he can cover, too. He's got ball skills. He's a great tackler. The sky is the limit for Kyle Duggar. And I tweeted this out, between Barmore and Duggar and Miles Bryant here, J.C. Jackson. This defense has a lot of youth, and I know Belichick isn't exactly a fountain of youth himself, but this defense has the building blocks for this defense to stay at the top of the league for a long time. And then we also have some veterans playing key roles here. Kyle Van Noy has just gone right back to being that elite hybrid outside backer who is one of the rare pieces that is just so, if utilized correctly, he is the perfect weapon to confuse quarterbacks, because it's just so uncommon for an edge piece to be dropping into coverage and then be one of the highest IQ cover linebackers in the league on top of that. So his versatility, it's just so lethal. He gets a pick 6 against Matt Ryan. He was great in the Browns game as well. They just have so many fun pieces here. Belichick's got to be having the time of his life right now with all these weapons. You got Adrian Phillips. He is a perfect kind of bandit safety. He gets a pick against Matt Ryan. He's been lights out all season long. It's just unfair how many pieces the Patriots have. Devin McCourty is playing much better in the last month, really going back. We lowered him like 4 weeks ago after that Cowboys game, but he's been much more sound and doesn't necessarily look like he's slowing down quite as much the last few weeks. And then Miles Bryant, +2. Wasn't necessarily so great in that Falcons game. That's something we'll have to monitor going forward. This is an undrafted free agent without a lot of speed, but in this Browns game, he was excellent, covering out of the slot. And then J.C. Jackson, +2. He's been one of the best corners in the NFL this season, and he's always been a good cover corner. I think he's taken a next step up this year. Playing for that contract as well, probably a little extra motivation. But they haven't missed a beat moving on from Stephon Gilmore, because J.C. Jackson has been legitimately one of the top 3 to 5 corners in the NFL this season. And then Nick Folk, even their kicker, having a great season. So just love all around for the New England Patriots. I have thoroughly enjoyed watching these guys develop and reemerge, and Belichick deploying all these versatile pieces. It's just a gem for people obsessed with football like myself. Unlike this Lions-Steelers game that was incredibly ugly, let's just get through it. Jared Goff has sucked this season. He's sucked. He doesn't have a lot of help. The offensive line isn't great. The receivers are terrible. I get it. But Jared Goff has one big-time throw in the last 2 weeks. He's not pushing the ball downfield. He's making mistakes. He doesn't extend plays. It's one of these, what is it that you do here type of deals with Jared Goff. He brings experience. He brings relatively good accuracy, and that's about it. He's just not a high-end starter at all, and he's coming down. The further he gets removed from Sean McVay and the LA Rams, the more and more warts we're seeing from Jared Goff. And then Godwin Igwebuike, it was fun to see on Twitter. A couple people tagged me I knew about Godwin Igwebuike because of Studs and Duds last week. And yeah, you did. And here he is, has a huge run. I think he got brought down at the 2-yard line at the end of it, but showed some vision and some ability to make defenders miss. Now, he's only getting, 3-4 snaps a week, but that's 2 weeks in a row now that he's truly made the most of that. And I think he's going to see more and more coming his way. This guy's a converted safety in his 4th year in the league, and just a fun story for a team that needs a little bit of fun. And then just a note on Penei Sewell. He flipped back to right tackle and held his own against TJ Watt in this game. And that's just noteworthy because he had before that really struggled when he'd played right tackle. But Taylor Decker back, so they moved Sewell to right tackle, and good to see him settling in at right tackle against one of the best pass rushers in the league. And then just some under-the-radar players here for the defense. Jalen Reeves-Maybin, he's been in Detroit for a while now, but he had one of his better games against the Steelers, so he's going to go up a little bit. And then we had to create a undrafted rookie, Mark Gilbert. This is another really fun story to keep an eye on. Mark Gilbert, back in 2019, maybe 2018 even, was viewed as a high-end prospect out of Duke. 6'1" cornerback. with some speed and ball skills, a really high upside player, but a hip injury that nagged him for years and years and years, 2-3 years, just unable to stay on the football field. But he came out at his pro day and had a really nice workout, showed that athleticism, and now Detroit picking him up here. Played about 30 snaps in this game and was really good out there. So definitely a player to keep an eye on. If he can stay healthy, if he's recovered from that hip injury, they may have stolen, I don't want to say first round talent, but definitely a day 2 talent at corner, which is a huge position of need. So a fun player to keep an eye on if he can continue to get some more playing time there. And then Tracy Walker +1, just been very sound, looking for a contract, probably going to be a pretty highly paid free agent, I would anticipate. That might be one of those players that gets a big payday and people are like, who the hell is Tracy Walker? Well, he's just a good, versatile, do-it-all safety. So +1 for Tracy Walker. Then for the Steelers, some love on the offensive line. Kevin Dotson is continuing to be just a lockdown pass protector on the inside there. And then Joe Hag, he's really played everywhere. They've had some moving pieces on this offensive line. He's played some guard, he's played some tackle. He's a veteran that has been a key piece for them to be able to rotate in on that offensive line. And then on the defense, it's really just a bunch of nobodies this week. You got Isaiah Loudermilk, day 3 pick out of Wisconsin. His versatility is that kind of 3-4 defensive end, kind of lineup 3-4-5 technique, play physical, tough against the run. He's been a pleasant surprise. James Pierre has been a total pleasant surprise. I will admit it, Steelers fans, you were right about James Pierre. I remember kind of laughing about the thought of James Pierre being this team's number 2 corner. I think he's been dealing with an injury. He's been in and out of the lineup for the last month or so, but gets back in here against Detroit, has a great game, and he's just been an instinctive, heady, solid number 2 corner for the Steelers really all season. So just, kind of a fun, undrafted year 2 player there, maybe even year 3, but he's been solid. And then Trey Norwood, a player that I thought was genuinely one of the worst prospects in this draft, has really been a different player for the Steelers. He's been a lot faster covering in the short to intermediate game. He's been tackling really well. The Steelers have a knack for these slot corners. Mike Hilton, Sutton, just another one here in Trey Norwood seems to be a young player that could be a nice Steeler here for a while, if nothing else, as like a 4th corner for dime packages. Okay, then we have the Jaguars-Colts game. Trevor Lawrence is going to come down, man. I've been kind of concerned by what we're seeing from Trevor Lawrence. It's been a lack of ability to kind of hang in the pocket and play in structure. He's missing some throws. He's been running a little bit too much and making some mistakes as far as forcing balls that aren't there. He's young, and he's got a lot of growth ahead of him. I'm not selling Trevor Lawrence. I'm not saying he's a bust or anything, but I have been pretty underwhelmed by Trevor Lawrence, who looked like maybe for a little while there he was on the right path. But now over the last couple of weeks, he's gone back to playing pretty bad football. So Trevor Lawrence down 1, and Mac Jones is officially, for me, the highest rated rookie quarterback. And then we've got the offensive line, Ben Bartch, man. That's huge for the Jags. He was a mid-round pick, a guy with a lot of excitement. Was he going to be a tackle, a guard? Well, he is settled in at right guard, and I don't see A.J. Cann getting that spot back. The Jags have had a lot of success with these lower-level prospects. Their center, Brandon Linder, is one of the best in the league. I can't remember what school he was from, but now you got Ben Bartch right next to him. Mauling dudes up front, been solid in pass protection, and they seem to have hit on a mid-round offensive lineman there out of St. John's University. And then Cam Robinson's been okay. He's been a pretty good run blocker, especially over the last few weeks, so he's going to get a little respect for that regard, playing on the franchise tag there. And then tight end Dan Arnold, he's just been a mainstay for this offense. I wouldn't say he's doing anything particularly impressive, but sure-handed and can get open over the middle of the field, so going to get some love. And then Josh Allen for the 3rd week in a row, just so impactful in every phase of the game. I love how good he is in coverage, too. Like, we mentioned what Kyle Van Noy can do. Josh Allen can do a little bit of that, confusing quarterbacks by dropping. But he's shown more power, which was a concern for me for him coming out of Kentucky, was I did think he needed to add a power element to his game, and he certainly has. So that's been I think it's just opened up his whole game as a pass rusher to have that threat of the bull rush. So yeah, Josh Allen continuing to ascend. And then Rudy Ford just steadily climbing as that role player, as that kind of intermediate third safety for this defense. Ford has been a really good special teamer. He's got incredible speed, but he's been tackling and covering better and earning more and more playing time for the Jags in the secondary. And then for the Colts, run game has been dominant here. Mark Glowinski. This is so fascinating because we've also been raising Chris Reed throughout this series. Reed stepped in at left guard with Quentin Nelson down, but he's actually been rotating with Mark Glowinski at right guard. But Glowinski was also injured to start the year, and I think they just were opening up a competition there, but Glowinski's like, no, there's no competition here. Give me my full-time starting reps back. So I think we see that soon because Glowinski has been moving people up front. And then we got Jonathan Taylor. No explanation needed on this one. He's been phenomenal. He's been probably the best running back in the NFL this season, with Derrick Henry out, unfortunately. But his vision has taken a next step this year. His impact in the receiving game has taken a next step this year. I think he's got even more juice, especially in kind of his one-cut first step looks where he hits holes so hard. The sky's the limit for Jonathan Taylor. Really exciting young back. And then Kylan Granson, he's been getting into the lineup. Nice little mid-round pick out of SMU. He's got some speed. He can separate. Watching the Senior Bowl tape, he was kind of the one tight end that you could tell he was going to be able to create some separation at the next level. A little bit of a smaller guy, hasn't done much as a blocker, but definitely filling the void of that Trey Burton role a little bit the last couple weeks. Then on the defense, we've got Kwity Paye, another young defender on the rise in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. He's been a dominant run defender. He's been really fun to watch. His development as a pass rush over the last few weeks as well. He's just kind of a handful, man. He's really active with his hands. He's got a little bit of bend. He plays low. He's fast off the ball. So that's really what he was coming out of Michigan, and it's translated to the next level, especially over the last month or so. And then Dayo Odeyingbo gets in there, kind of his first true opportunities this week, gets a sack. This was a second-round pick. I'm not the biggest Dayo fan, but good to see him get in, have a good rep, getting after the quarterback. We'll see if he can get more and more playing time as we move forward. And then in the secondary, these guys had an excellent lockdown game against the Jags, starting with Isaiah Rodgers, who's been kind of their fourth corner, rotates in and out. They don't have a true spot for him. He plays some slot, he plays outside, but his speed and his toughness, he's earned it, man. He's got a role on this team right now, and I think as you look into the future, he has a chance to be a full-time starter for them. He really does. So a good pick, Isaiah Rodgers. And then Rock Ya-Sin has settled in as well. He's been solid. Lock Ya-Sin, as Colts fans like to call him. And then Kenny Moore has really reversed course because he struggled a lot in the first month of the season. He actually was lowered a couple weeks in a row for us. But man, he has self-corrected, and he's been much better covering those crossing routes across obviously across the field. But that was where he was really getting beat, was in man-to-man coverage or in those match situations. Just his trail techniques were off, and now he's back, kind of sticking like glue over the middle of the field and in the short to intermediate game. So he's one of the premium slot corners in the league, and he's been playing like it much more the last few weeks. All right, Saints at Titans. We're going to go Deontay Harris +1. Seriously, one of my favorite players in the league. This dude's 5'6", but he's a polished route runner. He doesn't drop the ball. Did fumble in this game on a kick return, which really hurt the Saints in this game out the locker room for the second half. But he's been their best receiver, really by far. And they're leaning into him much more the last few weeks. It's been fun to see. Trevor Siemian's been solid. I'm just going to leave it at that. He's still Trevor Siemian. Was a good kind of last 20 minutes of this game, but did struggle early on in this one. And then we got Mark Ingram +1. Looks rejuvenated here for the Saints. Shy Tuttle continuing to climb as just a rock-solid run defender up front. What a find he was out of Tennessee, undrafted pickup. Was kind of an impact immediately, but he's been getting stronger and more disciplined as his career has gone on. And then Marcus Davenport, couple of nasty sacks in this game. He looks freaking huge, man. He looks like he put on 20 pounds. I mean, seriously, he looks like Cam Jordan out there, and he is deploying that power, and he hasn't lost a lot of juice in the process. So a former first-round pick actually cost the Saints an extra first-round pick to get him. So to see him look the part has been transformative for this pass rush. And then Pete Warner as well. You know, he's not getting full-time reps, but when he's out there, he's a sound tackler. He's in position, in coverage, just kind of versatile and smart. So a nice rookie find in the second round for the Saints. Then for the Titans, a lot of under-the-radar players this week going up. Marcus Johnson, big week. I think he had 100 yards receiving. Still not entirely sure what the Saints were doing when Marcus Johnson screamed open for like an 80-yard completion, wide open over the middle of the field. Not a particularly impressive play, but a couple other catches in this one. So just 67 to a 68 for him. And then Kyle Pecco, good nose tackle pickup for them. He's been sound as a rotational piece up front, as has Naquan Jones out of Michigan State. We had to create him, but those two guys are getting in the mix up front. Catching some breathers there for Jeffrey Simmons and those guys as these, Jones and Pecco rotate in. On the edge, Olasunkami Adeni, we're going to go with that, +1, 66 to a 67. Good run defender, good rotational piece. He's had a couple sacks this year. So just kind of that versatile hybrid edge piece off the bench. And then Christian Fulton back into the lineup healthy. Ooh, that's huge for this Titans secondary because, as we saw in this game, Chris Jackson was not good. But to have Christian Fulton back in the lineup, and not just back, but playing like this, year two has been pleasant for Christian Fulton. Just kind of doing everything, zone coverage, man coverage, lockdown, ball skills. I thought this was a steal in the second round. I had a great feeling about Christian Fulton coming out of LSU. And, he wasn't a full-time starter as a rookie. He got injured this year, but, man, he looks good. Getting +2 this week for a huge game against the Saints. All right, we got Bucs at Washington next. Kind of a weird game for the Bucs. Starting to get our eyes on some of these players that have not been playing great on both sides of the ball. Tom Brady, in most notably, last couple weeks, Tom Brady's not played well. There's no way around it. I'm not going to lower him yet because it seems like every time you doubt Tom Brady, he just turns around and makes you look foolish. But at some point, he's got to play better than he's playing. But O.J. Howard is going to come down. He just hasn't been able to step up consistently with Gronk down. I think everyone assumed this might have been a good opportunity for an O.J. Howard breakout. But he's not separating as much as he can. He's not coming down with the balls that Brady always wants him to, and he's coming down for it. It's been a disappointment for the former first-round pick who's had a ton of inconsistency in his career, and you would hope that he was more poised to take this opportunity and run with it, especially an impending free agent, and he certainly has not. And then on the Washington side of the ball, impressive game, obviously, taking down the Bucs. On offense, Cornelius Lucas getting the start at right tackle. They've had so many different starters there. They've all played well at right tackle. But Cornelius Lucas, the best of them, the veteran, 30-year-old, maybe even like 34 years old, but lengthy, athletic pass protector. And then we got DeAndre Carter. He's been such a pleasant surprise for Washington. They've needed a number 2 receiver to step up, and Carter's been that guy. He's a really good route runner. He's got speed. He's had okay ball skills. I think that's probably the knock on him. But he's had a nice ascension here for Washington. And then you got John Bates getting involved as a run blocker, catching a couple balls. So he's going to go up, rookie out of Boise State. Then on the defense, Ron Rivera hasn't done a great job this year of getting guys to kind of surprise or meet their potential. But Casey Toohill has been one of the rarities on the opposite side of that because he's having a nice season as that rotational edge. And you know what? he just might be a full-time starter now with Sweat injured and Chase Young done for the season. Casey Toohill is a guy to keep an eye on. He's an athletic dude coming out of Stanford. The Eagles tried to make him a hybrid off-ball linebacker, and it didn't really work. But he's back playing edge, which he did at Stanford. He's playing more tough physical run defense that he never did at Stanford. I don't know. We'll see what his upside might be, but I think he's going to get a lot of opportunities here in the second half of the season. So definitely keep an eye on him. And then in the secondary, these veterans who started miserable have settled in. Kendall Fuller been much better in coverage over the last few weeks, so he's going to get a little bit of love back. And Landon Collins, who was actually a dud of the week several weeks ago. He's played virtually no single high snaps really since he was our dud of the week. And you're noticing him not get exploited in coverage. He's been a more sound tackler. He's been flying to the football and been an asset for this defense. I said when I made him the dud of the week that I think in a different role he can get back to being a very good player. But he just needs a little bit of that confidence back and to be used correctly. And I think he is getting both of those things. So a little bit of love back for Collins and Fuller. Okay, next we have the Panthers slaughtering the Cardinals on the road, evening the all-time record in the NFL between cat teams and bird teams. But PJ Walker actually had a decent game here. Only one turnover-worthy play and just kind of executed a nice game plan. His average depth of target was minimal, but, backup quarterback comes in, wins a game, looks okay. It's worth giving him a little boost. I think he obviously gets overshadowed by Cam Newton coming in, running a couple plays and scoring a couple touchdowns. But this was PJ Walker's win. Don't forget that. And look, I don't think it's a lock that Cam Newton is a better quarterback than PJ Walker. I really don't. I think PJ Walker is a lot more arm talent and ability to push the ball downfield. Now, that might not be what this specific team needs because, they don't have an offensive line. And frankly, their receivers aren't the best outside of DJ Moore. So Cam might be a better fit. But I'm just saying, PJ Walker did okay this week. I'll just leave it at that. Brandon Zylstra, it is what it is. He's fine. He's a wide receiver 5, but he's gotten his number called this year and stepped up when called upon. And then, believe it or not, a couple of offensive linemen that have been bugaboos for the Chargers in Trent Scott's case, Michael Jordan for the Bengals case. These guys were scapegoat villains for those teams, but they've gotten starts here for the Panthers. Trent Scott at right guard, Michael Jordan at left guard. Sometimes all you need is a little kick in the ass, a little reality check, and you can turn things around. These guys are good athletes. They have physical upside. I doubt that they lock in as like full-time starters here, but they've been far from a complete liability. I will just say they've been solid, especially in pass protection for both these guys. So a little bit of love for the O-line. And then on the defense, Hassan Reddick just continues to fly around and get sacks like every single week. He continues to kind of defy math as far as how many sacks you're supposed to be able to convert off of a certain amount of pressures. But I think there is something to his speed and relentlessness to get home. But I will also say he's been much better as a run defender than he ever has been. So getting reunited with Matt Rule, who I'm just going to assume coached Hassan Reddick at Temple. We know Rule loves his Temple guys. But either way, Reddick looks phenomenal and has been used so well for the Panthers. And then Shaq Thompson as well, reminding us the last couple weeks that, this guy was a safety at Washington, showing off some range and cover instincts and just thriving at linebacker for the Panthers. And then all of these defensive backs for Carolina are super interesting. They use all these guys in different ways. Keith Taylor has kind of kept Stephon Gilmore off the field a little bit, as weird as that is to say. He's been used as like a matchup corner with some length and press ability. He's been a very pleasant surprise for them. You've got Miles Hartsfield, Sean Chandler kind of rotating around as safeties. They rotate all of these safeties in and out, and all these guys kind of fly around, tackle well, make plays. So just an incredible amount of depth and youth and speed for this Panthers defense on all three levels. Huge performance this week against Arizona. Granted, against a backup But then for the Cardinals, not so much going to change here. Just on the defensive side of the ball, Jalen Thompson's going to go up. He's been incredibly sound as that rangy safety for them on the back end. He's just a good, fast cover player. He's been slowly rising after being a supplemental draft pick for the Cardinals. And then Chandler Jones is going to come down. I mean, he's pretty far removed from his return from injury at this point, and he's been a pretty average pass rusher, really, for the last 2 months of the season. Had that huge opening game against Tennessee, and then has kind of gone back to the guy I was a little bit worried about last year before the injury, where he just wasn't a consistent, relentless pass rusher. Still a very good player, obviously, but at 88 being the grade on him, that's borderline elite territory, and he's been far from that recently. All right, Vikings at Chargers. Justin Jefferson continues to climb, and Adam Thielen dropping. You know, Jefferson, he's kind of stolen the show. Kirk Cousins certainly likes to glue in on JJ, but it's rightfully so. I mean, his ball skills are incredible. He separates deep and intermediate. He's got run after catch ability. He just does everything. Justin Jefferson has a strong case for being considered a top 5 receiver in the NFL because he is so versatile and does everything. And then Adam Thielen's going to come down. You know, a little bit of this is just his usage isn't as high, but you know, he's not separating at the same level. You still see those flashes in there with the ball skills and the craftiness out of the slot, but he just has not been that dominant weapon that he's been over the last 4 or 5 years. So he's going to come down. And then on the defense, Dalvin Tomlinson, he's been a little bit of a disappointment. It's not a huge surprise, but he just hasn't been a force in run defense for the Vikings. He hasn't been terrible, don't get me wrong, but he had a really good year for the Giants last year and hasn't been at that level, so he's just going to come down a little bit. And then James Lynch, interesting season from him. You know, I thought he was going to be a little more of a pass rushing specialist type coming out of Baylor, guy that played kind of edge at Baylor at 295 pounds, which was weird. You knew he was going to have to slide inside in the NFL. I thought maybe, okay, he might struggle against the run, having not a lot of experience taking on double teams and seeing the blocking he's going to see on the inside at the next level. But he's handled it really well, and Zimmer continues to give him more and more time. Now, on the flip side, he has not been much of an impact as a pass rusher. So he's been really the complete opposite of what I thought he was going to be. But it has been an impact for this team who needs some more depth on that D-line, and he's provided it. Now, one of the most shocking, eye-opening bright spots over the last couple of weeks around the league has been Cameron Bynum going up +2, who has filled in for Harrison Smith, who's been out the last couple of weeks. But this just makes sense. I think I said that same thing last week, but Bynum has been lights out in coverage. He's been a great tackler, run defender. He was a corner at Cal and just didn't have the speed, but his highlights and you know, his overall pedigree at California is a 4-year starter for them, was always a guy like kind of on draft analyst radars, but never really came out because of probably the lack of speed. But Mike Zimmer says, you know what? I'm going to take this super smart, lengthy, high IQ cornerback with a ton of experience, and I'm just going to put him at safety and use him as a versatile piece. He can come down and run some man coverage, which he's obviously very comfortable doing with all of his experience at corner. But his physicality, his just range, and IQ has been eye-opening, and I think he has a very bright future for the Vikings. A huge find on day 3 of the draft, and maybe it's just an anomaly. It's been 2 weeks, but it just makes sense that Cameron Bynum is going to have a nice career here for the Vikings. Then for the Chargers, Storm Norton's going to go up. He hasn't been great in pass protection, but as a run blocker, he's been really solid over the last few weeks. And then Matt Filer going to go up, just continues to climb. What a steal of a free agent signing this has been. I said it from the get-go. He's been one of the better guards in the NFL. Has ignited this offensive line along with Corey Linsley and obviously Rashawn Slater, the rookie first-round pick. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Kaiser White continuing to climb, just flying around, been a sure handed tackler, I suppose, been in great position in coverage, a college safety who's had his ups and downs, but has really, I would say, grabbed starting linebacker opportunity here for the Chargers in like year 3 or 4 for him. And then Trey Marshall, a guy that Brandon Staley's familiar with, having worked with him in Denver, getting a part of this safety rotation. He's been okay filling in there. So he's going to go up. Now time for that weird Seahawks-Packers game, 17-0. Not going to be moving anybody for the Seahawks offense. It was just kind of a weird game, but gotta note, Russell Wilson, what was that? You would think he'd be lowered after that. If he plays even half as bad as he did last week, he is going to go down. I mean, that was, like I said on the podcast this week, genuinely one of the worst quarterback performances of the season. But he hadn't been with the team in 4 weeks, playing with a, broken finger. You can make some pretty easy excuses for Russ, but he's got to play better moving forward. But the Seahawks defense did play really well in this game. And it's a lot of veterans here. Al Woods going up. He's like 34 years old, but just playing his best season as a run defender up front. There is a rookie here, though, Trey Brown, +2, 69 to a 71. He has grabbed that starting corner job here. I love Trey Brown. This guy had one of the best Senior Bowl performances you'll ever see in those one-on-one drills. It's not easy to cover one-on-one. Those one-on-one receiver corner drills, they are designed for the receiver to win. And Trey Brown just dominated those drills and was eye-opening. And you load up his Oklahoma tape and you're like, okay, he is super physical. He gets in guys' faces despite the fact that he's 5'10". Had a couple gaffes in coverages throughout his time at Oklahoma, but kind of a late riser, 23 years old. Regardless, this dude can ball out, and they took him in the 4th round, and you got DJ Reed on the other side here. It's funny, Seattle used to be the most stubborn team in the league as far as height cutoff at corner. Ryan Neal, I feel like, was a part of that way back when. But Pete Carroll, as stubborn and old as mentality is, the one thing he's really adjusted is saying, look, I don't need 6-foot corners. I just need guys that can cover and play physical, and that's DJ Reed and Trey Brown. I like the fact that they've got 2 good cover corners, which is something they've lacked for a long time, frankly. And then you got Ryan Neal just playing a versatile, do-it-all safety position, kind of coming in, playing in the slot. Been a good piece in coverage in like year 4 for him here in Seattle. And then for the Packers, some good, some bad. So Allen Lazard, really a miserable performance. It's really frustrating to see Matt LaFleur keep playing this guy. Packers fans still defending this guy. Brian Gutekunst justifying him as their wide receiver too. All of it. I mean, what does he do here other than run block? He doesn't separate. He's not a contested ball winner. He's got drop issues going back to last year and going all the way back to his Iowa State days. He doesn't separate. He cost the Packers multiple drives in this game. And his lack of separation hurts this team too. So he's just not a good receiver. He's had some moments. But, he, as I said, coming into the year, Allen Lazard should be a 5th or 6th receiver. I don't think he'd be rostered by over half the teams in the league. But Green Bay likes the guy, so there he is. And then Mason Crosby's going to come down too at the bottom of this list. He's got the yips. I also have a note on Rodgers, who was not good in this game. I think just like Russ, you can make some excuses. You say he didn't get to practice with the team all week. And Rodgers wasn't as bad as Russell Wilson, but certainly was not a good game from Aaron Rodgers. Some just stupid mistakes. He chucked a ball up into the red zone, just into double coverage, like a frustration heave. Very uncharacteristic, but if he doesn't play better moving forward, he's definitely going to come down. But the rest of this, really good. So you got A.J. Dillon continuing his breakout. It's, unfortunate that it takes an Aaron Jones injury for Matt LaFleur to actually use A.J. Dillon on the goal line, because that's been a theme since they drafted him, is like, why don't they use this, 250-pound stud that always breaks the first tackle on short yardage situations? So maybe a nice lesson for them to learn there that, you can give the ball to A.J. Dillon in those short yardage situations and he will convert. But he's just been steady as a receiver, which has been a pleasant surprise. And just all around, he's been a really good second-round pick of a running back. Then we've got Billy Turner, +1. He's just been solid all season long. He hasn't really gotten any love. He hasn't been amazing. He will lose, but not all that much. So he's going to go up. And then on the defense, TJ or Tadaro Slayton was a nice find in the mid rounds. I like this pick when they made it rather. This is a guy that coming out of Florida, like 340 pounds with high-end athleticism. I was a little surprised there wasn't more talk about TJ Slayton. I remember him being a good bit higher on my draft board than other people had him. It's not that he had this insane resume at Florida, but he was a good run defender and had a couple different pass rush moves, and he's been a big impact for them over the last couple weeks on the inside there. Then Rashawn Gary continues to climb. He leads the NFC in pressures right now. He's getting a sack almost every week at this point. Seems to have dodged a major injury. You hope that elbow and whatever happened in that injury that looked gruesome, you hope he can get the full power back, because he really does lean on the power he gets in his rush, but it's effective, needless to say. Then Adrian Amos going to go up 2. He's been lights out on the back end. He had one of the better safety performances you'll see in this game. Now, Russ was helping him out by just heaving the ball up a lot, but the range and all of it from Adrian Amos, as well as Darnell Savage, who's been spectacular the last couple of weeks. He's settling in next to Amos there in this quarter's defense. This is similar to what we've said about Micah Hyde and Poyer, where these guys both can do a little bit of everything. They're both very fast, and they're in a system that's, when you have two versatile athletic safeties, it's really fun to watch just the different ways that these guys get deployed. And then these corners had a great game. Eric Stokes, Kevin King, locking down Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Stokes has been just a really good first-round pick. He's got a serious upside as well. Who he actually reminds me a lot of is L'Jarius Sneed last year, where he's a 6-foot guy with 4.3 speed, and he just, is in good position, and a lot of times thanks to that speed, but his technique is certainly not bad. And then you got Kevin King, believe it or not, going up 2 weeks in a row. He's just been good. Now, he only played like 20, 25 snaps in this game, but he's been a really sound tackler. They're doing a good job of not putting him in compromising situations, much less than they did last year. So the new scheme, I do think, does play into Kevin King's skill set a little bit better. So I think you're seeing that translate. And, I still don't think he should be a full-time starter for this team, but when they get Jair Alexander back, Kevin King playing the way he's playing as their 4th or 5th corner, they've come a long way from when Kevin King was their go-to number 2 guy in a system where they run a lot of man coverage, which was a disaster. And then Philadelphia at Denver, a surprising performance from Philadelphia here, blowing out the Denver Broncos. And this offense has found its mentality here. You got Jalen Hurts, who's making some throws down the field. He's protecting the football and using his legs. As I said on the podcast, he's kind of established himself as a starting caliber quarterback. He's checked every box along the road. At this point, I don't even know what Jalen Hurts' upside is. I personally don't think it's like super high, but at this point, I don't know. He continues to prove every little checkpoint wrong and ascend. And this was another chapter towards that ascension, I suppose. And then Devonta Smith, no ascension required. I mean, from the get-go as a rookie, he's been an elite route runner. His ball skills have been dominant. I mean, he mossed Patrick Surtain in this game. And if your one question mark is you're 170 pounds, are you going to be able to play physical? And you're mossing one of the biggest corners in the NFL, at some point you just run out of weaknesses in Devonta Smith's game. And then Jack Stoll, one of my free agent undrafted free agent darlings, continuing to be a pretty sweet second, third tight end who's come in and just blocked his ass off, which is what he did at Nebraska. It's what I really liked about him. And then Boston Scott, Jordan Howard, these guys both playing really good at running back. Even Kenneth Gainwell, my dude, had a good game here as well. But this is a nice little one-two punch. You got your kind of third down scat back in Boston Scott. You got Jordan Howard, who's looking much more like the old Jordan Howard with the patience and the toughness and ability to run through arm tackles. And then Marcus Epps, the lone riser on the defense, a rotational player, gets 20, 30 snaps a week, but comes down, makes some good plays in the box as a tackler. He's made some pass breakups in coverage, so decent little third safety to have there. Nothing crazy, but he's having a good year. And then for the Broncos, coming back to earth a little bit, losing after that blowout win over the Cowboys. But Albert O, I'm not gonna say he's like better than Noah Fant or he's the long-term tight end here, but he is like seriously kind of hand in hand with Noah Fant at this point because he's a better blocker. He's actually been a better receiver over the last month. He's just as fast, right? Both these guys ran 4.5, and Albert O is bigger, and again, he actually blocks. So he is a physical freak, and he's figuring some stuff out here in Denver, and he's been a fast riser right now, playing with a lot of momentum. And then on the offensive line, Lloyd Cushenberry continues to just be very solid. He hasn't been elite or anything like that, but really rising from the depths there. He was not good as a rookie, and he's been a average starting center pretty consistently week to week. Been a really good run blocker recently, so he's going to go up. And then Cam Fleming, the veteran, has filled in very nicely over the last couple weeks at tackle. And there's your Denver Broncos. Then we've got Chiefs, Raiders, back into primetime football here. So Patrick Mahomes is going to get one of his 3 overall points that we took from him during his slump. But I think breaking out of that slump a little bit. Just one game. I don't think everything is perfectly fixed here, but you can tell. Just kind of getting that swagger back, that little twinkle in his eye that he's going to kill you. And he had it against the Raiders. So as long as that's back, Patrick Mahomes can very quickly get back to being considered the best quarterback in football. And then Darrell Williams really just going up for his ability as a receiver. I still don't think he's a very explosive, good runner. Like, he's fine. I think they definitely need an upgrade at running back. But, I mean, you moss Jonathan Abram for a huge touchdown down the field, you're going to get a little bit of respect. Then we got Creed Humphrey going up. No idea why he was a second-round pick, why other centers were drafted ahead of him. He was my number 1 center from the get-go. His tape was incredible coming out. And he's showing that athleticism and toughness just as he did at Oklahoma. He's been a lights-out run blocker and the best center in the NFL this season, Creed Humphrey, according to PFF. I mean, just what a steal for the Chiefs. That makes up for... Well, Orlando Brown hasn't even been that bad. I didn't love that trade. The main thing about that was the contract that I think they're inevitably going to have to make a decision on. But obviously giving up a first-round pick for that as well. I mean, you land Creed Humphrey with your second-round pick after you make that trade, it's just fine. It's more than fine. So what a steal Creed Humphrey was. And then on the defense, Jarran Reed has... gone way down in this series. He was one of the worst defensive players in the NFL in his first few games with the Chiefs. And maybe this is just because he has Chris Jones next to him now, and he's getting freed up a little bit. But he has returned to being solid for the Chiefs, or at least he did this week against the Raiders. Didn't have the best opposition, but gets a sack in this game and played much better run defense against the Raiders, who do actually run the ball pretty well. So Jarran Reed getting a little bit of love back, still has had a rough season, but good to see him look a little bit more like his old self in this one. And then Rashad Fenton. This was a big part of why I kind of held true to the Chiefs. I was like, look, they got L'Jarius Sneed, they have Charvarius Ward, who's not bad, and they got Rashad Fenton, who continues to make plays and earn more and more playing time. He's been their best corner. He's basically getting full-time reps now after being a slot guy for a while. This dude's a badass, man. What was he, a 6th-round pick? He's fought his way up the depth chart. He's just a super smart, quick corner that's playing lockdown coverage this year. So Rashad Fenton up to a 79. And then for the Raiders, obviously not a good week, and Derek Carr is going to come down. 5 turnover-worthy plays over the last 2 weeks. A large part of that, no Henry Ruggs out there, not as comfortable with that deep ball action. So he's going to come down. I think it's very well justified. He's not been playing well the last couple of weeks. Certainly wasn't any different in this one. And then Brandon Parker is going to go up, starting at right tackle. Nothing special, but he's starting and not been a complete and utter liability. And then for the defense, Max Crosby, definitely a star of the week candidate himself. He's been star of the week once this year already. He has been the one consistent, huge bright spot, not just for this team, but on the season. I mean, he has, 64 pressures? Let me just grab this real quick. He had 12 or 13 in this game. 63 pressures on the season. Now, the run of offensive tackles that he's gotten to play has been pretty funny because he went against Andrew Wiley in this game. But I don't care. He's on pace for over 100 pressures. Only a handful of edge players have ever done that, and he's been incredible. So going up 2 again, at this rate, he will be into the 90s by the end of the season, and if he stays at this rate, he should be right there with Myles Garrett for Defensive Player of the Year conversations. Then we got Trayvon Merrick. I talk up Javon Holland, but Trayvon Merrick was another great safety prospect in this class. And he's a little more of like a rangy, high safety. I think that, let's just say that both these guys landed in the right spots because the Raiders really needed that kind of Earl Thomas role for this cover 3 defense, and Trayvon Merrick is a little bit faster and has a little bit more range than Javon Holland. And Holland goes to a spot that likes their man coverage. They mix up their coverages and does a little bit of everything. So both these guys having great seasons. Merrick gets his hand on a football this week against Mahomes. He's been a very secure tackler the last 3 weeks, hasn't missed a tackle he's gone really the last 7 weeks. He's only missed 1 tackle in those in those 7 games combined. So Merrick's been really nice. Jonathan Abram, on the other hand, looked okay early on and has gone right back to being Jonathan Abram, who can't cover. He's missing tackles. He sucks. Gruden's gone. Thank God. Hopefully there's no more of these picks. But Jonathan Abram is back to sucking. Damon Arnett's gone, and Henry Ruggs is gone. Holy shit. Just inexplicably bad draft picks. It's hilarious, man. But Jonathan Abram gets mossed by Damian Williams, among other bad things in this game. Then we get the Rams at the Niners. I'm going to lower Matthew Stafford, man. That's 2 weeks in a row he's been bad, especially in that Titans game. But this game was just late on throws. 4 turnover-worthy plays in this game, rather. Was behind on throws, like just inaccurate stuff. And if Matthew Stafford plays like this, the Rams are going to regret going all in. I think he plays better football moving forward, but I think it's certainly warranted for him to come down. And then Andrew Whitworth, I tweeted about this, but the fact that he is 39 years old, playing at an all-pro level, coming off an ACL injury at his age, playing an actually physically demanding position, it's unbelievable. Tom Brady gets his respect for playing as well as he does at his age. I see what Andrew Whitworth is doing is even more impressive because he plays a position that isn't protected by the rules. He does engage in physical contact play after play after play, and he locks dudes down play after play after play. He was really good against Nick Bosa in this game. Then Brian Allen, he continues to climb. He's been a solid run blocker up front and a decent pass protector. This was a huge question for the Rams coming into the year, so it's nice that the center has not been a liability for them. And then on the defense, really just these rotational guys, Agbanya Okoronkwo, really fun player. He plays that hybrid edge spot where he'll drop into coverage. He defends the run. He's got some bend and ability to get after the quarterback. Just a sweet player that's coming on late in, it's got to be his 3rd or 4th year. I wonder if it's a contract year for him even. Then we got Marquise Copeland +4, getting into the mix up front, playing really good run defense, another veteran kind of earning playing time and on the rise. And then the 49ers with the huge upset here, Trent Williams having quite possibly the best run block season ever. I mean, it's just absurd. If you have a hard time watching the Niners and Jimmy Garoppolo, which, they're playing better offense now, so it shouldn't be a problem. But I encourage you, just watch Trent Williams in the next Niners game, and you will say, oh yeah, that's different. An offensive lineman probably shouldn't be able to do those things every single snap. So he's going up again. The only reason he's not a 99 for me is he's not a elite pass protector. He's just a very good pass protector. But what he does as a run blocker is just stupid. And then Debo, another unique player in his own right, because he's not the best route runner. He doesn't have the best release off the line of scrimmage, and hell, he's had pretty serious drop issues this year as well. But his ability to break the first tackle, to fight for tough yardage, and his speed to create big plays in the screen game, in designed, schemed open looks, it is elite. And Debo has been probably a top 10 receiver in the NFL this season. He has kind of single-handedly been this team's offense, at least through the air. Although I will say, guess who was back this week? Mr. George Kittle. I don't think it's a coincidence that he kind of gets fully healthy back into the lineup, and the offense has one of their better weeks on the season. So they have some superstars out there. This offense is clicking in a little bit. Shanahan getting his mojo back. The Niners are certainly not dead. But Josh Norman probably is. -2. He just can't cover anymore. He came in right away for the Niners and made a couple plays, punched a couple balls out. It's always been his thing, is the hand-eye coordination to kind of get at the football. But gosh, he just can't cover anymore. There's no way around it. And then in the secondary, Jimmy Ward, it was lights out. He had a day against the Rams, couple of interceptions, gets the pick six, nice alert play with Higbee kind of dropping the ball, popping it up a little bit, but also breaks on another interception on Stafford, throwing the ball over the middle of the field. So Jimmy Ward, if you remember in that Super Bowl season, was one of the best free safeties in the league and playing a little bit more like that guy this year. It wasn't just this week. He's had a good season, so it was due, and he earned it this week. And then Talanoa Hufanga, kind of playing like that guy he was at USC a little bit, playing all over the field, little range, little box stuff. Just an instinctive player that has a nose for the football. It's a couple good weeks in a row. He's an interesting player. Declared early out of USC a really productive player, but then didn't test well, so he fell into the mid-rounds. But sometimes these guys, the testing numbers just don't matter, and I think Hufanga could be one of those guys. And it's hard not to think of Troy Polamalu when you watch him play, because he plays similarly as far as his role. Like, he plays all over the place, and he's got that same hair to him. And that is going to do it for Studs and Duds this week. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Do let me know in the comments down below where you agree, where you disagree, and if there's any players you feel I missed. Also, please do hit that like button down below. Consider checking out those links to support the channel financially. I really appreciate you. And make sure you subscribe for more NFL content as we move forward. So, appreciate you all for watching, and we'll see you next time. Peace.